Hello everyone, Keeper here, welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. This is my contribution to the IYMSS, the International YouTuber Mun's Space Station. There it is in all its glory, with street lamps and amazing antenna on the bottom. Now before you scream at me in the comment section about the fact that point 20 is already out and this is 0.19, I recorded this before point 20 came out. So yeah, just before you scream at me in the comment section. But anyway, I decided that my part was going to be a solar array. Because of course the space station didn't have one, and I thought it would look quite good and supply it with much needed power for any other systems anyone wanted to add onto it. And I realised that the best design was probably the same design that I used for my space station, the CK-24, or Urge Space Station, otherwise known as the Space Carrot. So I based it on the same design. I used the sub-assembly mod loader to just speed things up, so I wouldn't have to just keep rebuilding things that had already been built. But yeah, I just modified it, put lights on the bottom instead, rearranged some parts with a probe body and all that sort of stuff. And I'm constructing a tug right now. This is just a little thing to attach it to the space station, and then the plan was that it would then deorbit and crash onto the moon and never be seen again. But that was just its job, to rendezvous and dock. And it was all completely self-powered. You'd think that with a whole solar panel array on the top you wouldn't need to add RTGs, but yeah, because otherwise you'd need these panels extended, and the size of these panels, well, they're so big that they're likely to smash into something at least. I used the same Moon transport vehicle because of its weight was about the same as that of my standard Moon lander. I put the Moon transport vehicle on the bottom, just whacked it on the bottom, made sure I had some RCS, and launched it. I did the whole thing in one go in about 52 minutes, I think, from start to finish. So this is slightly edited and obviously sped up. There's the magnificent launch. And slightly wobbly one as well. I still need to fix some things to the moon with the Moon transport vehicle. One thing is I need to put the orange tanks on the side rather than using those grey tanks, because I think I built the thing when I was having issues with Kerbal Space with the VAB, when it wouldn't let me attach anything radially, and now I found that the answer to that is simply look down while attaching them, and it works. The other thing is I'm not using any mainsails on this, which greatly improves its efficiency. But obviously the engines it's got at the moment don't gimbal. The only gimbal engine that's thrust vectoring is the one right in the centre. And as you can see, it means that it does spin around quite alarmingly during that stage, which did make turning it over quite tricky. I think it's because of the fuel lines affect the balance slightly. You can see the International YouTuber Space Station in orbit around Kerbin there. That's still there. And incredibly laggy, that's why I didn't bother visiting it. But yeah, the outer boosters don't have any thrust vectoring, which means that it's really stable on takeoff, but as it gets out of the atmosphere, where the fins have less and less control, it does start to spin. So I'll probably have to sacrifice some efficiency for some extra control. Because even though I'd use engines with the same ISP, the efficiency would actually go down because I'm adding more weight by adding a couple more engines onto it. But it's still plenty powerful enough. So, getting into the orbit around the moon, everything's going really well at the moment. The standard Moon transport vehicle is a really versatile ship. Though I did have to do quite a tricky manoeuvre, which is actually now a standard manoeuvre that I normally have to do with any ships that are slightly heavier than the traditional Moonlander, which is basically en route to the moon. I actually send the booster stage into a crash course, so a crash on the moon, and then readjust the orbit again before I actually crash into it with the last stage. So I got an intercept with a little bit of trouble. I had to use the RCS a little bit because I overburned. I had to make sure I was also going the right way round. And then that happened. When I time warped, it decided that it didn't want to go to the moon anymore. I think that's to do with some errors with actually going on, with actually time warping, because it had to convert the calculations or something. Scott probably knows a bit more about it, but it converts from one method to another, and that can sometimes affect the orbit slightly when you time warp. But so far, so good. There I am doing the maneuver to send the booster stage into the surface of the moon, so it isn't flying around space. And this is incredibly slow, even though it's 4 times speed, because of the actual weight of the thing. And most of this is in 4 times speed. But yeah, so I just burned. And then I found a problem because of I had to try and make sure that I maneuvered the thing out of the way of the booster, because I couldn't exactly just turn around and then burn, because I'd crash into it. And whilst doing that, I discovered another problem. Because I was using because the solar array was docked to it, to its tug section. Ooh, just scraping by there, narrowly missing a fin there. Because it was docked via a junior docking port, it did wobble a little bit. So while it was perfectly balanced, the wobbling did make it oscillate and waste RCS. So I did have to keep time warping. You can see it really wobbling there as I'm burning. But I did have to sometimes time warp to stabilize the thing. So it was a little bit of a problem because I was wasting a lot of monopropellant, but I still had plenty of monopropellant. You know, I gave the thing a lot of monopropellant just in case that would happen, and here I am just rendezvousing with the station. So far, so smooth. It was actually quite easy. I did mistime it, so I just did a lot of time warping to until that thing ticked down. It's ticking down like a clock there, that indicator. But nothing really went wrong, which was spectacularly good. Literally nothing. So, you know, I had a couple of narrow scrapes, or very, narrow misses, but they were really under control. They were kind of planned narrow misses in a way. I've still got plenty of fuel. I barely touched that tank, and even this maneuver barely uses any fuel. And I've rendezvoused. Well, and I'm in the process of rendezvousing. Though one thing that I didn't actually take into account was the types of docking ports that were being used, because my plan was to put the solar array in between the little tug that it had on board, on the station and the station itself, but I didn't realise that the tug had a little docking port on one end and a big docking port on the other. The station had one big docking port, and my solar array had a big docking port and a small docking port, which meant that the lights were going to be facing the wrong way, because I would have to dock it upside down. Though it did look better, and there are no other lights on the station, so it wasn't really a problem, because of the lights there wouldn't have added to anything, but the lights shining upwards away from the station means that when you're docking the space tug back to the station, it's much easier to see where you're going. And lights on the station, I put lights on my my space carrot station specifically to counter this problem of docking at night. Because what ended up happening was, of course, rendezvousing at night, which means you can't see anything, and neither could I. Because of course, that old lighting bug has long been fixed. So what I had to do was park the station there. You can see the space tug gradually flying away there. I tried to keep as many things in the view of the galaxy in the background, the galaxy view in the background, so at least you could see their silhouettes. I tried to do that as much as I could, just so that you could at least see something. But I had to eject the space tug away, gradually let it float away, and then try and dock the solar array to it, fly the its own special tug away, and then redock the little RCS powered space tug. So here I am docking, or trying to, in pitch black, hitting all the wrong buttons, not being able to see anything, and boop, there we go, I'm docked. It did throw the station off kilter a little bit though, so I did have to correct that afterwards. Did I correct it there? No. So yeah, I just detached that and just flew it away, but made sure it wasn't in the path of the space tug. I didn't want to accidentally fly upwards too fast and crash it into the space tug, or try and push the space tug directly down and get it to crash as well. But luckily none of that happened. It was fairly smooth actually, considering it was in, you know, complete darkness. And for some reason the station was turning round slowly. I think that was because I hadn't killed all of its velocity before I ejected the other ship. So docking this one was a little bit tricky, but because it's so light, it easily span round. There you go. And docked. Then I had to do the very long process of recentering it. Against the curb in the background and everything. But yeah, so that went pretty smoothly. I hope you could actually see enough, but I time warped it into the light so you can then see it. And there you go. And here I am in real time opening up the solar panels. I'm kind of gonna I'm gonna nickname this the Space Onion. My ship is the Space Carrot because of its or was until I added the radial tanks, but because of its large orange tank. And this one is the Space Onion because it's got leaves on the top and it is grey instead, and has this kind of sprouty rooty bit at the end. What am I doing now? Oh yes, and then the last thing to do was just to deorbit the space tug. I'm sorry there isn't any explosion, I just wanted to make sure it was all completely gone. And there you go. There is the current progress of the space station. So yeah, that was my part. Subscribe for more and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.